Hi, my name is Megan. Welcome back to part 3 of our grief and emotional processing workshop. Today, we're going to be talking about grief brain and chronic stress. Grief brain is similar to pregnancy brain or chemo brain and is associated with impaired brain function and short-term memory loss. The reason that we experience this is that grief is its own form of chronic stress. When we're under stress, our body releases the cortisol hormone, which sends us into a state of fight or flight. When we're in that state, those brain functions that are not essential for survival are temporarily turned off. That's going to be the frontal lobe region of your brain, which is primarily responsible for those executive functioning skills. That's going to be your decision making, your sequencing, your planning and prioritizing, and your overall organization. So this could look like difficulty driving, feeling overwhelmed with basic everyday tasks, such as going to the grocery store. In the context of a discussion or conversation, you could lose your train of thought or have word finding issues. So this is what stress looks and feels like, although we know that everyone's stress reaction is going to be very different. So it could be an increase in fatigue and irritability, rapid heart rate and shallow breathing that comes from that fight or flight response, a decrease or an increase in appetite, mental confusion or poor self-control. So that would look like you're overspending, over caffeinating, over drinking, overeating, oversleeping, a lack of motivation or interest in things that previously brought you joy, overwhelming emotions, increased blood pressure, headaches and body aches, and a low tolerance for minor frustrations, just to name a few. Some of the pandemic specific challenges of grief, the main one is going to be the social isolation that we've all experienced over this last year. We are physically and emotionally more removed from those people that we feel most comfortable sharing our experiences with. And sometimes it's difficult to share hard news or personal experiences over the phone or over Zoom. It's something that maybe happens much more naturally for you in person. We've also lost some of those casual social encounters, a conversation with a colleague in the hallway or a neighbor on your street, that occur more organically and contribute to a sense of connection and decreased loneliness. Also, just the ever-evolving state of things during this pandemic doesn't allow for us to take pause or to take stock of our losses and grieve those losses, because there's always something coming next that we have to deal with. So finding the time or finding that person that you can confide in to talk about your losses or your stresses or your grief, and if not, just sitting in your silence so that you give yourself the time and space to feel the emotions that you might be suppressing. Those will be essential for your recovery. So some discussion questions for you to think on or journal on this week are: what are some sources of chronic stress in your life? How has your grief and chronic stress forced you to put your needs on the back burner in this last year? And can you deprioritize one thing that causes stress while reprioritizing one of your personal needs? And so we have all of these balls in the air all of the time. What is one of those balls that you can let drop for today, for this week, for this month? So the good news is that if you deal with your grief, or you learn how to cope with your stress, your brain functioning returns to normal. So some coping strategies for this week: we have box breathing. This will help to reduce that rapid heart rate and shallow breathing that we talked about earlier. Really visualizing the box as you do your inhale, hold, exhale, hold is a great mindfulness practice. And then the other one is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. This is great for a state of heightened stress or anxiety, because anxiety lives in both the past and in the future. But the grounding technique forces you to tune in to the sensory components of your present environment. So saying these things out loud, if you can, is best. And then in terms of some of those executive functioning skills, list making is going to be a big friend for helping to organize and sequence some tasks that you have. Through a conversation, you can jot down vocabulary words or write down someone's questions so that you don't lose your place in that conversation. As always, reach out to Colorado Spirit team members if you have any questions or are looking for some additional processing time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.